In the Clive Barker Podcast, longtime fans Ryan and Jose interview guests, bring you news, and take deep dives into Barker-related stuff. In episode 452, we return to the Boom Studios run of Hellraiser comics, specifically the Dark Watch issues 5 through 8. Plus, we have some Lord of Illusions release news. This episode is sponsored by Don Bertram's Celebrate Imagination. Don Bertram is a longtime friend of Clive and advocate of his art, but Don's unique and inspiring paintings are for sale, and over 50% of the proceeds go to the Arts and Medicine program at the Texas Children's Cancer Center. There's even a paver in Washington, D.C. representing Celebrate Imagination. We're thrilled that this worthy cause is sponsoring our podcast again this year, and we hope that you'll consider looking over the Etsy shop to buy one of his original paintings or books. Follow the link in the show notes or click the side banner and let's see what's new with Don Bertram today. Check out the painting You Can't Keep Him on his Facebook page. And there are also some paintings on his Etsy shop to check out. Mother and Child 2, The Stargazer, The Folk Singer, The Pearl, The Portal, Top of the World, and don't forget about his books, The Chimney Sweep's Tale and Celebrate Imagination. All right, well, welcome. This is episode 452 of the Clive Barker Podcast. Good evening, Jose. How's it going?
Hey, Ryan. It's going okay. I had to work today. My job involves me working every other Saturday, and recently I exchanged some dates with a few coworkers to help them out, and one of them helped me out so I could go see my niece's graduation. But so I've been working a lot of Saturdays recently because of that. But hey, like I said, this is the last time we did an episode. I was just telling you how much this is a part of my day that I look forward to, especially if I've worked this Saturday. This is like my relaxation time. So I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad that I got to read some more Hellraiser comics.
Yeah, and for me, it's a break from shoveling rocks, which is what I've been doing like for all the evenings this week.
They put you in a chain gang?
Yeah. No, it's because we're putting compacted gravel down to pour the concrete slab for the shed it's going to be 2 sheds. But the one that I got for the studio for the podcast, and we also have to get that delivered, which we're having a really hard time finding someone to deliver that right now.
Oh, sure. But that's exciting. Like, so how big are we talking about, the little studio? How big a shed are we talking?
18, and it's 13 feet tall.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you thinking about splitting it up on the inside in different sections, or is it just going to be 10 by 18?
It's going to be, 10 by 18.
Okay.
Yeah, just a big open space. It's got a tall ceiling on the right side as you go in, because it's got kind of a slanty shed roof.
Do you think you're going to get a little secluded little corner for the podcast and put some panels on it so it won't make a lot of echo?
Oh, I don't know about, probably don't need to do the panels. I guess we'll see what it sounds like in there.
Yeah. You're gonna wire it up for internet and all that.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. You're gonna bring like your consoles and your games into that?
Yeah, and we have to heat it too.
Right. So what else are you planning on moving in there? Are you going to turn it into a little man cave kind of headquarters?
Movies and video games for sure.
Yeah, not books.
I'm debating about bringing the Barker books out there. I might.
Right, because you want to see how humid it gets in the winter and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure when it gets snowed up. So how tall does the snow usually get there in the winter? Because how are you going to be able to you'd have to clear a path to be able to go to your shed, right, in the winter?
Yeah. Well, we have a snow blower, so I just use that.
Okay. Does it have to have like a little bit of a taller like base to be able to in the winter not be buried in the snow?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's going to be it's up on skids, and then on top of that it's, there's the gravel pad and then the concrete pad.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it still will have to dig out around the door probably.
Nice. I guess you're going to be spending some hours in there editing stuff, and you're probably going to move your computer in there.
Oh yeah. Yep. And I still have my old Mac Mini that'll probably stay here in the house.
Sweet.
And move the Mac Studio into the podcast studio.
Does it add a lot to the property tax to build something like that?
Well, yes and no. I have to make sure that they all know that it's not a tiny house, because that's what it looks like.
Right. That it's just a kitchen, functional storage kind of like, what would that qualify as? Like just a structure, like a storage structure?
A hobby shop.
Hobby shop. Okay. Yeah. That's cool. Now we're getting into the legalese of it.
Or multi-purpose building is another one that they could call it. We don't do our own neighborhoods, and especially our own houses.
Right.
So
of course.
It's always got to be somebody else.
Right. That makes total sense. Yep. To avoid any sort of abusive.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course. Yeah. So that's going to be cool. Keep us posted on that. I'm sure you're going to give us some updates through our listener group on Facebook and maybe through Patreon.
Yeah. I might do that. And there's something else for Patreon I've been thinking of working on. Mm-hmm. And I was just about to do this last weekend, to do a collector's corner about the game Jericho. And then I saw on eBay that there was actually one more thing that I was missing. So I bought that, and now I have it. And now I don't know if I'll have time this weekend because of all the shoveling gravel. But what it is there's a steelbook version for the Xbox 360, and I found out there was another steelbook version for the PlayStation 3.
Oh, wow.
So now I have that. Now I have 5 copies of Jericho.
Okay, so it came out for the Xbox, the PlayStation, and the PC.
Yeah.
So those are 3. And then what
there's
are
a
the other 2?
Steelbook Xbox and a Steelbook.
Oh, yeah, the special one. Okay. Does it come with like interesting bonus content inside, or?
The game is exactly the same, but it has like an art book inside, and like in the physical art book, and it has a DVD with the making of the game.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm now struggling to remember if I've ever seen like the making of the game. Maybe on YouTube or something.
Maybe. I'm not sure if it's there or not, but I'll put the DVD in at some point and watch it.
Okay. All right. That sounds fun. Yeah. So now you got that. And what else do you have? Posters and.
Oh yeah. Right. Yep. There's a book that looks kind of like the manual, but it's different.
Like the guide?
Yeah, no, it's just like it's like a promotional book. And then there's also the strategy guide.
Nice.
And I have a t-shirt that's extra large, so it doesn't really fit me. I might just like send it to somebody.
Sure. That's cool. I'm working on an article that's on the blog right now as a draft. I've got to finish it this weekend. But I think I've mentioned this before, that Ed Martinez and a Hellraiser fan out there called Kyle Hart, they've been working on sculpting and making a latex mask of Camerahead, the Cenobite from Hellraiser 3. And we've got lots of pictures to go with that, and it's probably going to be put up this weekend.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah. Weren't you also working on a blog post or a Patreon post about like how we started the podcast?
Yeah, I think that draft is still in the blog as well. I got to see if I can finish those.
Okay. Yeah, I think that one was when we first started the Patreon.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I kind of paused that to do other stuff, and then I forgot about it, but I'll get back to it.
Okay. All right, yeah. And so this episode today, we're going to be talking about Boom Hellraiser, the Dark Watch, issues 5 through 8. But before we get to that, we do have one small bit of news from the Reef. Lord of Illusions has a new release. And thanks to Richard Rich for letting us know about that. Honestly, the information that we got is a little bit underwhelming.
Sure, yeah. It looks like this is going to be, it seems like a bare bones kind of edition in Blu-ray. It's going to come out.
Single disc Blu-ray, so like regular 1080p resolution. And the running time that they list is 109 minutes, that's the theatrical cut running time. Right.
Yep. That's what I was going to say, because there's another Blu-ray that says director's cut, but this one looks like it's just going to be the theatrical. It's going to come out on September 3rd of 2024, apparently, according to the pre-order page on Amazon.com, and it also is on Blu-ray.com. I think that's the link that we'll add to the show notes. And it says it's a 2K Blu-ray for region A, right?
Yeah.
Single disc, like you said, looks like no major extras listed here in Blu-ray.com.
Yeah, so maybe they just don't know, what they are yet. But
yeah,
it's a little bit of a bummer that and I guess it's good it's always good to see a new release come out.
It is being released by Sandpiper Pictures, June 13 of this, so 2 days ago. As we record this, they revealed that they were going to release several upcoming Blu-ray releases, amongst them Moby Dick, Saving Grace, and The Hound of the Baskervilles. All right, so this is actually topical for what we're going to discuss today about the Dark Watch, because we're going to have another Lord of Illusions release, and Harry D'Amour is now the Hell Priest in these issues that we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah. So should we jump in it?
I think so. Yeah. I've got the issue number 5 pulled up in my computer here. This was written by Clive Barker and Brendan Seifert, art by Korkut Oztekin.
Yeah.
And I kind of dig the wacky, bold kind of dynamic style of this comic. Yeah. I like Oztekin's art style.
I do too.
It's very wild and
he seems
very,
like the
cool
guy that they call when Tom Garcia is not available.
Yeah, right.
At least right now, that's how it is. For this Dark Watch series.
So this comic book opens with a guy is kidnapped and is hanging upside down in an alleyway. We see what looks like a derelict from Hellraiser, or what they call a eremite, and he's bringing out a Hellraiser puzzle box. Okay, after he slices the guy's throat that's hanging from a chain, and it goes onto the floor, and we see a reanimated figure come out of the floor, and when he sees that box, he has a funny reaction.
Yeah, he's like, get that away from me.
Yeah, because the puzzle guardian wants this reanimated person to solve the box so Harry D'Amour can cross into our world. Yeah. And it turns out that this skinned person that just came back from hell is Rajiv, one of the harrowers who got killed a few issues ago, right?
Yeah. And it took me a bit to put that together, that's who that was. But, because it's been a while since we read these now. And
yeah, he was attacked by a demon or something, right? And no, it was an eremite. And I think that he got gutted and died and went to hell.
Yep. Now he's back as kind of an Uncle Frank type of a zombie vampire, they call him.
Yeah. So I have concerns about what's going on here with Harry D'Amour's plan. It seems Harry D'Amour has taken a very practical approach to how to deal with the issues that he meets in Leviathan's Dimension. And he takes a pretty liberal approach at the ends justifying the means. Like he's got Rajiv taking the blood off of all these people that the derelict has gathered up in what looks like a weird basement. Mm-hmm. And Rajiv sucks enough blood to grow back his skin and become the Rajiv that we saw several issues ago.
Yeah.
But that just means that he just killed a bunch of people to get his skin back. And so I'm wondering, what is Harry D'Amour's criteria to decide who he can sacrifice for this plan?
Yeah,
right?
It's a really good question. Yeah, and then we've got Harry D'Amour sitting at a desk with a computer with a picture of a Rubik's Cube on the screen, which is weird.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So this is Tiffany, right? Tiffany is now working with Harry D'Amour, even though she kind of suspects that this might come at a certain cost. And Harry D'Amour gave them directions to go to this particular church called the Church of Lost Salvation. And they have to see what's going to happen there, because something weird's going to happen. And what they testify when they're spying on the celebration going on in this church is that inside, all these people at that mass gathered for a service are demons, right? They're horrible demons. Are they all
or just some of them?
I think it's all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It says here, that they started their service, and most of them didn't stay in one shape for more than a moment. I don't know what they were, but they weren't any Cenobites that we've ever seen. And then you're right, we do see a funny picture of Tiffany discussing what she saw with Harry D'Amour as Pinhead. And there, he's just, I love that he's sitting in front of an old style laptop computer that's got a little screensaver of like a Rubik's Cube or a Hellraiser cube.
Yeah.
And you can see his arms are tattooed with the same protection tattoos that Harry D'Amour supposedly has.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think one of the biggest dramatic irony problems that we have with this comic now is that Harry D'Amour is so busy with his plan and just telling people what to do, but he won't tell them why.
Right.
And
that's going to create a lot of doubt, right? A lot of resentment.
Yeah, exactly. Rajiv is angry because it's like, what'd you bring me back for? And Harry just kind of blows him off. He's like, well, the alternative is getting tortured in hell. Like, you're welcome.
Yeah, right. But now he has to drink the blood of people to be able to stay alive. So he's like, you've turned me into a monster. But the main takeaway from that conversation that they were having when they saw those demons in church is that those aren't Cenobites. They're demons from a different realm of hell. It's like underneath the Leviathan domain, there's another hell for the sin of fury, which is run by Abaddon or Abaddon. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you pronounce that.
I would say Abaddon.
Abaddon. So that's who those demons are, and they're trying to take over Leviathan's domain for their own purposes. Yeah. So they're conspiring to start a war with the Cenobites. So like you said, D'Amour brought Rajiv to become his man on the terrain with the Hellraiser box that he can open up the box and bring him in at specific times. And the demons that are at the Church of Lost Salvation are in the middle of their service, and Rajiv solves the box to summon Harry D'Amour, and inside the church, all hell breaks loose, right? I love the way that all the candles in the church are blown out, and this blue light comes in, and all these chains start coming down from the top of the church. Yeah. And the demons are like, we're under attack. And these warrior Cenobites appear with these gigantic like helmets and stuff. I think this is pretty cool.
Yeah, I love those. Those are awesome.
One of them kind of reminds me of the mouth of Sauron from the extended Lord of the Rings edition.
Yeah. But so then Tiffany and her group, because Harry didn't tell them what's going on, so they're like, I don't know what to do. We don't like, they don't like Cenobites. They don't like demons. And so they start creating the circle of the penitent or whatever?
The glyph of the solitant.
Solitant. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, they sneaked in the basement of the church, and they're spray painting the glyph of the solitant, which is the purpose of that glyph is to take away the protection that hell gives to the Cenobites, right? Yeah. So that's how they usually are able to summon a Cenobite, by solving a box and then killing them inside the glyph and destroying the box. I think they're trying to do the same because they don't know what to do with these demons, but they didn't realize that, like you said, Rajiv was there to facilitate the entrance of the Cenobites to give a surprise attack on these demons. And now they discover that while they're fighting demons, the Cenobites discover that, hey, wait a minute, we're supposed to be invulnerable, and these demons are actually retaliating against us and landing their blows. They're like, oh, shoot, that can only mean that someone drew the glyph of the solitant. And then that's exactly when the female Cenobite is coming to that conclusion, and Tiffany and the other guys come upstairs to the place where the pews and the altar is, and they just come in to see all hell's breaking loose, and the female Cenobite is like, what have you done? And it's like, I don't know.
And she says, and Tiffany's like, kill them all. So she doesn't care. Like, she just wants to shoot every single type of demon that's there.
Yeah, it's like, which ones do we help? The monstrous ones or the ones, or the other monstrous ones? It's like, I don't know, man. They don't look like friendlies to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so now everybody's fighting everybody, and
that all that could have been stopped if Harry had just bothered to tell them what their plan, instead of just like, no, this is your part, you do this.
Yeah, that's why Tiffany doesn't trust Harry D'Amour, and it's going to get even worse as we progress this story. So Rajiv actually saves one of the harrowers from getting attacked by a demon, and I didn't know a reanimated person from hell could do this, but apparently Rajiv sucks the blood off of that demon and takes his life force and turns him into a husk. And so, yeah.
And Rajiv survives getting shot through the forehead, doesn't he?
I think so, because he's already dead, right? He's just reanimated. And so if something happens that his body gets mutilated, the only way he can get healed is if he sucks the blood off of some living creature and replenishes himself.
Which kind of makes sense. I mean, the only way the only way that anybody could stop Frank was to have him hauled back to hell.
Right. So when they're talking about this and they're like, "Oh my God, Rajiv, you came back from hell and now you're a vampire like the other tortured souls." It's like, yeah, but why are the Cenobites here? It's like, who opened the door to the Cenobites? And it's like, I did. And at that point, one of the officiants of the demon assembly kind of comes over and yoinks, he takes the box out of Rajiv's hands and runs out of the church.
Yeah.
Because he knows he's got to find a way to close the box so he can push all these Cenobites back to where they came from. And he just runs off of the church. And I think, meanwhile, they're still fighting, and the female Cenobite manages to stab one of the bigger demons, and everybody just kind of disappears because she says, "Oh, they realized there was a lost battle, so they just returned back to hell." And
Tiffany grabs the knife that can hurt Cenobites and says, "It's time to take care of D'Amour."
Right. And in the meantime, the demon guy that ran out of the church manages to close the box, and the female Cenobite is sent back to hell before she can grab the knife that can kill Cenobites. And that's why
Tiffany demon guy is somebody important, and we'll find out who he is on the next issue here really quick. But
oh, that's right. Yeah. He
open up that one.
Yeah. He's from The Last Illusion. So, okay. After all this debacle, of course, like Tiffany, like you said, it's like, we gotta get rid of D'Amour, because she doesn't trust that he's planning things behind their back. So the next issue is issue 6, again, written by Clive Barker and Brandon Seifert, art by Tom Garcia.
Yeah.
And I just see one cover. I just have one cover for this one.
Same.
It's the one with the Tiffany holding a gun, and then there's a stylized version of Harry D'Amour as Pinhead holding the box inside the Labyrinth of Hell. I think that cover is by Lorena.
And you can see part of him is missing skin, and you can see his rib cage and his heart.
Yeah, because that's that hole he has in his chest, right? That's all pulled back. I think it's where his heart was supposed to be. So this one, it opens up with someone solving a box, right? Someone solving one of Leviathan's puzzle boxes. And we see a wall kind of break open, and the Cenobites appear, and like, oh, the box, he opened it. What's going on? And the Cenobites discover that they've been summoned by Abaddon's servants. And one of them was that guy that you were talking about, right? The guy that doesn't have an arm. And it turns out he is Butterfield, right? From The Last Illusion.
Right. But it's important to remember that Butterfield from The Last Illusion is way different from Butterfield from Lord of Illusions.
Right.
He's like a lawyer from hell in The Last Illusion.
That's right. That's a good analogy to what his job is. And he's actually flanked on both sides by, one of them is Chat, right? The demon with the many eyes. And the other one is that floating, glowing monster called the Castrato from The Last Illusion.
Oh, yeah. And later on, they'll even invoke the Rappery, which is also from The Last Illusion.
Oh, yeah. And there's these creatures that kind of look like panther monsters. They kind of look like what I would call Gekageks. That's what I would imagine they would look like. So I was wondering if these are creatures from the Innovo, or if they're just supposed to be demonic creatures, since they're joining all of these like different universes together. It's kind of cool. I love the armor that the Cenobite warriors have. I mean, it's an armor that that's made with what looks like panels from the box, except giant panels from the box. And they've got swords and gauntlets and helmets. And then they're pretty cool looking Cenobites.
Yeah.
But they discovered that these hell demons are being protected by talismans against attacks from the Cenobites, right? They've got these like bubbles that protect them.
Yeah. And then we go to Harry D'Amour, and he's giving a speech. And he hates giving speeches, and it's really embarrassing.
Right. Yeah, like the female Cenobite escapes the attack, although Chat and the other demons take care of the warrior Cenobites. Yeah. But I think this place where they got summoned, this is in the other hell, right? This is in Abaddon's domain. And it's like, remember when we saw in a previous issue, like Harry D'Amour was walking into the Oubliette, which was a little castle. And then he went in there and they said, hey, you're not supposed to be here. And then they kind of pushed them away from entering that area. That was because it belongs to a different kingdom. But we hard cut to Norma, right? Norma Payne.
Yeah.
And Tiffany has gone to see Norma.
Yep. And they're sort of arguing about whether he's still a good person, if he's even the same person anymore.
Yeah. If Harry D'Amour is still a good person, if they can trust him now that he's the hell priest. And Norma is still saying, he's got a decent heart. He's a good man. A good man in hell is still a good man, which I'm okay. That's if you say so. But apparently, Norma also contacted the ghost of a lady that has instructions on where to find a book with a particular binding circle. And I think this is because Tiffany is trying to find a way to even the odds with Harry D'Amour in case she needs to summon him and keep him under control. She wants to ask him some questions. And like you said, it cuts to Harry D'Amour in hell giving a pep speech to his Cenobites, and he's doing a terrible job of it, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's like, oh, thank God, an interruption.
Yeah, he's like, sin and damnation and hellfire and brimstone, and, you get the idea. And everybody's just staring at him at the podium, and it's like, okay, I've never been very good at public speaking, and then that's when attack is like, oh, an interruption. All right, let's get to arms. And they go out of their temple and they come across Butterfield and the other demons, and it's like, oh, hi Butterfield, how's that left arm treating you? So I guess Harry D'Amour was responsible for him losing his arm.
Yeah, it seems like there's something there that we're, it's like an inside joke or an inside thing that we're supposed to be aware of, or maybe not. But I don't know what it is. Wait, I don't think that Harry D'Amour got in any kind of physical fight with any of the demons.
Well, Harry D'Amour did shoot someone in the arm 3 times, right? I'm not sure if it was this one. No, it was a different character. It was the Cankerist. Okay, never mind. Yeah. I was thinking about when he shot the Cankerist in the arm 3 times a couple of issues ago. But that's the Cankerist. That's not this guy.
Not Butterfield,
I guess they're alluding to something. I forgot if in the last illusion Butterfield loses an arm. Do you remember anything like that?
I don't. Yeah, we might want to revisit that, I guess.
Yeah, like you were saying, we should probably revisit some of those Books of Blood stories.
I think we should just do them all. Start over from the beginning.
Yeah. But anyway, so Butterfield tells D'Amour, oh yeah, one day you'll get what's coming to you, D'Amour. And he's like, okay, then I guess you're not here for me. And he tries to summon his barbed wire to contain the demons, but he realizes, oh, okay, you guys got those talismans that protect you from hell's attacks. Okay, that's cool. And Butterfield is like, yeah, you can't hurt us. We seem to be at an impasse. And again, Harry D'Amour pulls out his gun, and he just kind of shoots at the demons.
Yeah.
And he just he hits Butterfield. He hits one of the big panther monsters. He hits the chat. And we see blood, right? It's like, stop it.
Yeah. Because it's not like a human where it's a mortal wound. It just hurts.
Yeah, it just hurts the demons. It's like, it's not going to defeat them. But just as this happens at the same time on Earth, we got Tiffany, right? Tiffany and the Harrowers. They got that box that D'Amour gave Rajiv to call him whenever he wants to be in our world, and they decide to summon him inside a glyph of
But
binding glyph.
I thought that Butterfield stole that box from Rajiv.
Okay, you're right. This is not Rajiv's box.
They've got a different kind of box.
This is the box that Harry D'Amour gave to Tiffany to summon him personally. Okay, you're right. It gets a little confusing with all these boxes, But you're right, because the one that Rajiv used to allow Hell to invade that Church of Demons was a regular lament configuration, and this one is the one that looks like a Celtic knot, like a square, squares interlaced together. So she summons D'Amour onto the D'Amour office, which is now the Harrower headquarters, and he's like, "What the hell just happened?" It's like, hey, this is not a good time, guys. What are you guys trying to do? An intervention? And the Harrowers all raise their weapons and point at Harry D'Amour. And in the meantime, back in Hell, they're like, "What have you guys done with the Hell Priest?" It's like, we didn't do anything. He just ran away. We'll send the Rapparee behind after him. And the Rapparee is another of those monsters, right? From the Last Illusion. He's like
it's a really kind of stylized, crazy looking design. It's got like an axe for a head.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some arms look like lobster claws and some look like they're made out of metal.
Yeah, this would go really well. This is kind of like what I imagined was one of the monsters in that Nightbreed story you wrote, because it has a giant kind of
the metal
claw.
caliper legs.
Yeah. So yeah, this Rapparee was a fearsome machine-like demon in the Last Illusion. Yeah, so he shows up and he's going to be chasing after Harry D'Amour.
And Harry's trapped in this circle with the Harrowers.
I think that the Rapparee is going to follow the scent and try to transport himself to where D'Amour is.
Yeah. Yeah, and Harry's like, sorry, I can't talk now. If you'll excuse me, I'm needed. And summoning circle. Yep.
In the meantime, it looks like the demons, Abaddon's demons, are doing short work of the Cenobites. They're actually, because Cenobites can't really hurt them, so they're kind of going through them like butter. And they're dispatching a bunch of Cenobites here and there. And they keep climbing up to the top of the maze, and they're approaching the center of the maze where Leviathan is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then it cuts back again to the Harrowers and D'Amour, and he won't tell him anything, and he's getting madder and madder. And
he's just
his time.
And then he just draws out his gun, which seems to be D'Amour's thing of choice. Is just, okay, I'm done talking. Let's just pull out the gun. And so in full comic book fashion, even the good guys have to fight each other for a while and work it out. And to make matters worse, the Rapparee is going to show up.
There's one line where Harry says, "Everybody gives me shit about the gun. You have no idea how often it comes in handy."
Yes. Yep. And so, all right. So he already kind of sneered at the binding circle at the beginning, because he's like, yeah, if I sneeze too hard, I'll probably break this. So he's going to be like, okay, guys, I got to get out of here. I got to get back to Hell. And Rajiv comes over to him and just says, look at me, Harry. Look, you turned me into a monster. Look, I got shot. You can't kill me with bullets. You made me a monster. It's like, well, what else was I supposed to do? You died and went to hell. You'd rather be tortured? Like you said it a while ago. And he's like, well, now I have to eat people to survive. And it's like, well, plenty of people deserve to be eaten. Which, again, okay, D'Amour, you're being very practical about this, but a good guy has to not become a monster. And this is when the Rapparee comes in through the crack in the wall, and we leave in the cliffhanger, right? So the Rapparee found me. He's coming in through the portal that's open halfway, and now we got to fight this guy or we're all dead. So.
Yeah. And so the next one, episode or issue 7, has got a big old close up of Harry D'Amour on the cover.
Oh yeah, I think it's is it the red cover that's got Harry D'Amour?
Yeah.
And it looks kind of cartoony, and there's lots of blood spatters on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cover by Lorena Carvalho. I think at this point they weren't doing ABC covers anymore.
Right, yeah. They've kind of stopped doing that, it seems like. Which is nice, for collectors not feeling like, you have to buy everything.
Sure, sure. So they open at the cliffhanger that we left behind where everybody's in Harry Damour's old office and they're like, oh my God, what is that thing? It's like, it's a rapparee. They're walking demon tanks.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, you guys gotta let me out of here so I can fight this thing. He's like, no, you gotta answer for what you did. I'm like, guys, this is not the time. I mean, the Harrowers seem like terrible at strategy. They really got to learn to listen, and Harry's going to learn how to communicate.
Well, and then the rapparee at one point gets stuck in the circle with Harry, and he's vulnerable, and he's like, "Oh my God, you have to do something. I'm going to get murdered." Yeah, Theo. I think Theo is one of those Harrowers, and he tries to attack the rapparee, which goes as well as you'd imagine. Of course, he gets immediately thrown back. And before the rapparee can impale him in his giant pincers, Harry Damour just throws him the talisman that creates that bubble around him that the rapparee cannot pierce, and he, saves Theo momentarily. Yeah. But then, of course, the rapparee turns back to Damour, and now he doesn't have a talisman anymore, and he kind of just grabs him with his crab-like claws, and like you said, he's lifting him up, and he's like, "Oh, guys, I'm still stuck inside the glyph, and this guy's gonna kill me." And so I'm not sure if my comic is correct, but there is a little weird jump here for me where he says, you got to get rid of the glyph of the Solitant so I can become invulnerable to his attack and he won't kill me. And then I just see this jerry can of gasoline and a match. And then the next page is just something's burning and they're putting it out. The rapparee is on fire. Yeah, it's like I read that too last night or this morning. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Did we just skip a whole, why is it so easy? Yeah, I guess, that's a little weird, right? It felt like there was a page or two missing here. Yeah. But apparently that's what happens. They just put in a jerry can and a match close up. And then the next step is they're putting out the corpse of the rapparee. Yeah. I'm going to guess some time went by and they took out the glyph of the Solitant. Maybe Harry Damour killed the demon. I'm not sure what happened here, but it's pretty jarring. Yeah. It's a little unfortunate because I was doing a decent job following along up until that. And then all of a sudden. Yeah. And I've been enjoying this whole idea of seeing all these characters from other stories of Clive Barker show up and fighting each other, like the rapparee. And they did a great job with those Cenobite armors that they created for those warriors and the way they're making the rapparee, designed with the big axe for a head and giant pincers. I was enjoying this, but this was a little jarring. Felt like something was missing. Yeah. And so, okay, now Damour kind of explains what's going on, that we've got to stop these demons. They're attacking Hell. We need your help. So will you help us? It's like, yes, under one condition. And then it cuts back to Leviathan's domain where Abaddon's servants are now starting to drag the dead Cenobites and they're kind of making them into a circle. And the female Cenobite. A glyph. Yeah. Yeah, a glyph. So a glyph underneath Leviathan made out of bodies of dead Cenobites. And it's the glyph of the Solitant, which would take away the protection of Leviathan and make him vulnerable for an assassination. Right? Yeah, and later on we're going to find out what that condition of Tiffany's was. I assumed when I read that the condition was give me Kirsty back. And then when we read on, we find out, no, it was a little more immediate and practical, I guess, than that. But yeah, the condition was just that they wanted talismans to protect themselves from demons. Right. Well, she had her own secret plan, right? You're right on the money that she wanted to rescue Kirsty as well. And that's going to come into play later. Yeah. But for now, the Harrowers are now here and they have talismans and they're going to start shooting Abaddon's servants and making sure that they don't get too close to Leviathan. And so we start with the CIA guy starts shooting some of the demons with a gun. Nelson, I think. Is that his name? I think so. And then when the demons come at him after he shot them, he shows that he's got a talisman and the Cenobites can just tear him apart. And the same thing happens with Chat Chat. Chat Chat gets killed by Tiffany
because she also grabs a talisman that protects her, and she uses the knife that kills Cenobites to cut Chad, basically disembowel him and cut him in two. Yeah. And then the last guy, Theo is supposed to grab the talisman and take care of the last guy, but he gets overpowered, unfortunately, right? So now he's being taken by Butterfield, and Butterfield's like, okay, well, we're finished. Escort me back to the portal. If you guys try to hurt me, this guy dies. And then he also tells Tiffany, oh, and also, I'm not the guy who's lying to you. Damore is lying to you. Damore's got your surrogate mother, he's meaning Kirsty, locked inside a mind prison with Elliot Spencer. And
which is sort of true, but it's not like Harry put him there.
Right.
Yeah.
But so, okay. In the meantime, Theo manages to pickpocket the talisman off of Butterfield's pocket, therefore taking his invulnerability and allowing Damore to rip off Butterfield's other arm with his barbed wire chains.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, all right, what are you waiting for, Damore? Kill me. Yeah. He's like, yeah, well, I'll love to. After the torture, lots of torture.
Yeah.
All right. And then, okay, so that's it. That's the end. They go back through the doorway to the Harrower headquarters. And while they're there, they're like, okay, well, we get to keep these talismans. This will make fighting hell much easier. And then we see that she's left behind and she's kind of fiddling with a box, right? And the other guys.
Tiffany is kind of gone rogue on her own, away from the rest of the Harrowers to go rescue Kirsty.
Right. And they see her work the box and the wall starts closing and she's still inside the tunnel of hell. And Theo even tries to grab her. It's like, hey, Tiffany, what are you doing? Hey, grab my hand. And they're like, hey, what are you doing?
And the door almost cut his arm off. Or when the wall closed up.
And I was like, what the fuck, Theo? That was stupid. Were you trying to get your arm amputated? Like, I was trying to save Tiffany. Save her from what? Well, does it look like she wanted to be saved while she stood there closing the portal with us on the other side? Like, wait, why would she put herself in hell without us? And Rajit's like, isn't it obvious? And it to be continued. Yeah. And she's gone to save Kirsty. She says, Kirsty, I'm going to get you out of here. And she starts walking through the tunnels of hell.
Yeah. And that leads us to number 8. Also just one cover, also written by Clive Barker and Brandon Seifert with art by Tom Garcia.
Yeah. Covered by the same person, Lorena Carvalho. The cover is Tiffany kind of holding the Hell Priest version of Kirsty come out of like a portal in the wall, and then behind them, angry face with Elliot Spencer and some lightning.
Right.
And of course, just got to mention that this in the credits, there's also special thanks to Mark Miller and Ben Mears, who also wrote a lot of the series to this point. All right. So this one opens up in Leviathan's domain, right? So we got 2 cool looking Cenobites, and they're torturing Butterfield. Questioning Butterfield.
And something bad's going to happen to them because it's not Harry Damore, or the female Cenobite. It's 2 Cenobites we've never seen before.
Yeah, but I like these guys. One of them has like a mask that kind of drapes over the bottom of his face, like a big scarf with just eye holes. And then he's got like a diamond screwed to his forehead, a metal diamond. And then he's got like a mohawk made out of like the top part of the Hellraiser box.
Right. Yeah, one of the panels.
The one that breaks up into a lot of sections and rotates.
And the other guy's got like his skull removed, so his brain is exposed on the back of his head, and there's some kind of a thing sticking out of his head,
it's like a horn or like a bone or some sort of thing with chains coming out of it. Yeah. So and he's biting down on something.
Looks like a bridle or something from a horse with chains coming out of it. Yeah.
And he's got this kind of priestly garb with this kind of like hood and shoulder cape. And so they're trying to have Butterfield. They're saying, we ask again, lawyer, why did Abaddon send your terrorist cell to assassinate our Lord Leviathan? I like the fact that the Cenobites are talking about terrorist cells.
Yeah.
With the demons. But anyway, so Butterfield starts smiling and they're like, what are you smiling about, lawyer? It's like, I know something you don't. well, yes, I mean, we're obviously trying to torture you to get the knowledge out of you. It's like, no, you don't understand. And it's like, it's Tiffany. She's coming up behind the 2 Cenobites with her magic Harrower Cenobite killing knife, and she kind of stabs one of them in the neck, and the other one also gets disemboweled. I got to say, this knife is a little Deus Ex Machina. It kind of makes Tiffany be able to kill any Cenobite with no problem. And I feel like Cenobites would have been a little harder to kill than this.
Well, yeah, it makes you wonder if they're just out of practice with like actually fighting and defending themselves.
Yeah. So he says, "Oh, I'd give you a round of applause, but I'd be overreaching myself because it doesn't have any arms." Haha.
Yeah.
And it's like, "So what can I do for you?" And she's like, "I want Kirsty. Where is she?" And she's like, "Don't be stupid. I'm not going to tell you where she is. I'm going to show you." Yeah. And it's like, "I'm not letting you go free." It's like, well, this is where it gets interesting because you need information and I need freedom. So, and she's like, "Well, what if I torture you for that information?" And she's like, and he's like, "Ha ha ha. You want to torture me for information?" And you kind of like understand the ridiculousness of the threat. He was just being tortured by 2 Cenobites. It's like, the line starts behind the professionals. So do we have a deal? And she's like, all right. So it cuts back to Harry D'Amour finding out that Butterfield was released, and the female Cenobite says, and guess what? We've seen Tiffany in the labyrinth. And it's like, oh no, she's going to try to mess everything up if we don't stop her. So they start running off to see if they can stop her from finding Kirsty. Yeah. And
Tiffany goes nuts and she's killing huge groups of Cenobites.
Yeah, she's just hiding in the hallways, and we see troops of Cenobites arriving. Mm-hmm. And whenever they get found out, she has the talisman so the Cenobites can't hurt her, and she kind of hacks at them. And while they're doing this, Butterfield shows his true form, right?
Yeah, he turns into a big, like, centipede, I guess.
Yeah, this weird maggot thing growing out of his like hips. He's got normal legs, but then his torso expands into like this bulbous tentacle thing.
Well, he kind of explodes out of that body, and then the legs are gone too by the next.
Yeah, and he's got these little claw-like hands, like multiple little claw-like hands underneath his head, his face, and whatever that look like. I don't know. It's just gross. Mm. And even Tiffany is kind of surprised. It's like, well, I just needed a new body. So it looks like these demons have a way of transforming their bodies into whatever they want. So, okay, they got to the big chamber where that glass ball is, where Kirsty and Elliot Spencer are imprisoned. Mm-hmm. And so he says, well, this is where you got to look. She's right there. And she touches the sphere and she gets dragged into the hallucinations that we saw a few issues ago.
And
right?
Butterfield's like, well, I did what I said, I guess. Now you're on your own.
Yeah, I like the way he just slithers out of there. So Tiffany shows up in that hut in the middle of the desert where Spencer was talking to that representative of the Abaddon's Hell when he was getting the powers that turn him into something more than he was. And so Spencer is chasing Tiffany and is chasing Kirsty, and she's like, well, never mind. I got a big Cenobite killing knife. And she's like, she tries to use it on Elliot Spencer and nothing happens. And he's like, oh, what was that supposed to do? And she's like, well,
that's just an imaginary knife.
Yeah.
And so he cuts her throat.
It cuts her throat. So yeah. And Spencer goes like, finally, I thought you'd never shut up. And then Kirsty attacks him, and Spencer just drags her to the floor and starts strangling her. And Kirsty has had so fed up with this that she's like, I'm going to kill you. No more cat and mouse, which is a reference to, Frank. Okay. Yeah. Only death. And she's like, just fucking do it, you asshole. And the minute she says that, they all break out of that crystal bubble, right? They all get released from the prison. All it needed was for Kirsty to kind of give up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess she was just also keeping him in there because apparently now that Spencer's out, Abaddon's plan can continue. And so
it wasn't a very good prison for Spencer.
Yeah. Yeah. And it eventually, it eventually would release him as soon as Kirsty figured that out. But so once they're out, there's a giant hole that just appears in the middle of the labyrinth, right? The giant pit that comes out, opens up in the middle of the labyrinth, and it really stinks to high heaven.
Yeah.
And once that opening to Abaddon's domain is unleashed, Spencer goes through a metamorphosis, right? So he falls to the ground and he starts glowing and starts like weird claw-like things start coming out of his body, and his body changes into an insectoid form, and he grows these multitudes of horns and claws. And they're like, Spencer, and he's like, not quite, not anymore. Yeah. So now he's a demonic kind of avatar representative. So another cool cliffhanger here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess he's going to become the equivalent to Abaddon that Harry D'Amour is to Leviathan.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. This story is a lot less convoluted and easier to follow, I think, than the last run of Hellraiser comics. I mean, than the Dark Watch in general. I mean,
I like a lot of what they did with the Dark Watch. I like that they brought all these characters together. They brought all these different worlds from the Last Illusion. They found a way to incorporate that into the mythology of Hell. And it's true. I mean, when you think about the Cenobites and you think about the other demons from the Great and Secret Show trilogy, the demon with the golden eyes, or Chat. Is Chat a Cenobite? No, they just mention he's a demon from a line of demons of which, having a scar would be tantamount to, disgrace or whatever. Mm-hmm. So those aren't Cenobites. And so they found a way of just putting them in a different strata of hell. And I think that was
you have to do something if you're going to bring Harry D'Amour into the story. And Harry D'Amour has historically had run-ins with demons that weren't Cenobites.
That's right. And it gives an extra dimension to, the Scarlet Gospels and what's at stake. I mean, if you want to bring that in part of the comics into the Scarlet Gospels, but it just gives you another version of what would happen when they met. Yeah. But I liked it. And I liked the art too. I thought the art was pretty cool. I mean, there was that first issue, number 5, had some interesting art for the beginning, but then Tom Garcia is pretty good. I'm happy with the way that he draws things.
Yeah, me too. And I'm happy that both the writing team and the artist are pretty well consistent. Yeah. I mean, even when they switched artists, it still was at least the same artist within the whole issue.
That's right. And I know what's going to come because we're going to have more stuff. I think it's going to be like The Road Below at some point. This Dark Watch goes on for 12 issues, so the 4 more to go.
Which will be one more episode of the Dark Watch for us.
That's right. That's right. And then we'll go back to talking a little bit more about, the Quartet of Torment box. Probably talk a little bit about the extras of disc 2. We didn't bring that in today because we didn't have enough time for that, but we got more stuff to talk about, right?
Yeah. So this was just something that while I was putting together the show notes, I saw a suggested page, and I'm like, how come I've never heard of this? So on Facebook, there's the Hellraiser fan page and buy sell. And it's like, I thought we knew all of the Barker related pages, but I didn't know about this one.
Yeah, that's I think it's run by Kevin Knott. He's a guy from Florida. He used to be the guy who created HellraiserPuzzleBox.com. So he created that group. And
just recently, who is that? Nick Percival put up giant movie-sized posters of Hellraiser comics covers.
Oh, for real? I didn't see that.
Yeah, and they're autographed. So they're all autographed by him, and one of them is autographed by Doug Bradley.
Oh, wait. Are you talking about that Hellraiser page, buy and sell?
Yeah.
Fan page and buy sell?
Yeah.
Okay, so those posters were put in there? Because I'm just finding out about, there it is. Yeah, 10 hours ago. Oh my gosh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
250 pounds for the Bradley signed one, 150 pounds for the other versions. Free postage in the UK. Okay, so this is in the UK.
Yeah. Yeah, but I thought that was kind of neat, and it was related to what we were talking about, Boom Hellraiser comics.
Absolutely, they look great.
Suggestion, of a group to join. That it's like, wow, I'd never heard of this one.
Yeah, I've seen it before. I didn't really join it because I don't really go into buy and sell groups that much. Usually, I don't. When I look for something, I look for something on my own, and if I find it, I find it on eBay or someplace like that. But yeah, sometimes there's very interesting things that happen and that show up in these groups, like these posters that you mentioned. It's just too bad it's in the UK. But hey, UK fellas, you probably can jump on this.
Yeah.
Free postage in the UK, 250 pounds, and then plus postage to the US. It depends on how much you're willing to pay.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot, but those are pretty cool. I've never seen those for sale before.
Yeah, for sure. They got a lot of interesting stuff in this group. I'm looking at a Pillar of Souls and busts.
And that Pillar of Soul rotates on a little rotating plate.
Oh my God! Someone bought a 18-inch motion-activated pinhead from NECA. Wow! I never saw one of the big ones. Do you have the big ones?
No. I just have the 6-inch one.
Because I know there used to be a giant Chatterer and a giant pinhead.
Right.
Motion-activated. So I always wanted to see those, how they look like in real life and what they do. Yeah. I never knew what they do, if they say something or they move. Check out our show notes. We'll have more information about that Lord of Illusions release with thanks to Richard Rich. And we got some Patreon member shout outs, right?
Yeah. So thank you to David Anderson, Eric Vanderholt, Daniel Elvin, and of course our returning sponsor, Don Bertram, and Celebrate Imagination.
Imagination, yeah.
Of course, the best way to support this podcast is through our Patreon at patreon.com/BarkerCast589. Our subscribers will get exclusive access to content not available anywhere else, like our Collector's Corner video series, rare Barker videos, and early behind-the-scenes stuff. Plus, backers in the $10 tier will also be able to choose an episode topic, and we might mail you something once in a while, depending on your location. Our supporters also get access to the exclusive channel in our Discord server. We'll be forever grateful if you consider helping us out and subscribing to our Patreon. So what's new on Patreon?
All right, so what's going to be new for our Patreon subscribers? Got that on podcasting presentation you did for Rotary Club?
Yeah. Yep, I did a presentation for the Rotary Club here in Fairbanks about podcasting in general. So I made a video of it and kind of redid the narrative to kind of sound like similar to what I said at the time, because I didn't record it at the time. But yeah. So just kind of if anybody's thinking about starting a podcast, it's a lot about, what I learned and, all the mistakes that I made along the way, or, that and the difficulties we had, and advice on how to kind of get a leg up and, start a little bit ahead of where we had to learn things the hard way.
That's right.
And then we've got the art of Clive Barker, which was that video that you digitized from the VHS.
Yeah. Best Cutler Gallery.
The Best Cutler Gallery.
Yeah. The next things to check out will probably be that Jericho Squad Collector's Corner that you're going to be working on, as well as the article about Ed Martinez and Kyle Hart making a Hellraiser mask for Camerahead, and that little short article about how we started the podcast, how we met, and how everything got started, and what other things did we do before we started the podcast. There's a few little things there as well. So those should be going up this weekend.
Yeah, and I did do a review on Jericho, so I'm probably not going to do so much about that. I might just show a little few clips from it, but I think mainly I just want to talk about the collection instead of talking about, how much I like the game, which is what I did on the review.
Right. Yeah. I guess I would love to see those steelbooks. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of interior stuff they have in there. Yeah. And we'll have more stuff coming up. Jericho Squad 77 will return Yeah. We'll be doing more A through Z commentaries. Army of Darkness, so that's going to be Evil Dead 3 or Army of Darkness, whatever you want to call it. Eventually, we'll discuss the Nightbreed soundtrack, the one that came out from Entrada.
Have you ordered that?
No, I will order it today. Okay. I'll see if I can order that today. And then we will talk about the Phantasmagoria Hellraiser interview book, possibly get into reviews of 4K Underworld and Rawhead Rex, and more Boom Hellraiser, the Dark Watch comic discussions for issues 9, 10, 11, 12, and more coverage for the Hellraiser Quartet of Torment for discs 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah. So we got a lot of stuff coming up. Looking forward to doing all of those. And of course, also we discussed like revisiting the Books of Blood. So it'd be kind of nice to start up that again too.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to go back to some of those stories that I haven't read in many years.
I wonder if we could even do them as short episodes and just do one story at a time instead of like the whole book.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, we don't have to talk for an hour about every single story, but some of them will probably just be more like, this is what I like the best about this one. And this is the moments that I always return to whenever I think back to this one, stuff like that.
I've started. Yeah. I know people have been doing like Facebook stories and Instagram reels and stuff for a long time, but I just started doing those in the last couple of days and it's actually kind of fun. So now I did one for this episode, just kind of advertising it.
Yeah, that's going to be cool. I saw you make the story. I've liked it. And I used it to confirm what issues we're going to be doing today. So thanks for putting up that picture.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was fun.
As usual,
go ahead. Those things on YouTube because they have like copyrighted music on them.
Ah, that's right. But go ahead and join our listeners club, Clive Barker Listeners Club, if you're on Facebook. That's where we post, share links and stuff. So go ahead and join that. And this podcast, having no beginning, will have no end.
Thank you for joining us, and we hope you have subscribed. You can find the Clive Barker Podcast wherever you find audio. Show notes for this episode, as well as news and reviews, can be found at our website at www.clivebarkercast.com. The Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial podcast and blog that is not affiliated with or under contract by Clive Barker or Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans. You can chat with us on our Facebook BarkerCast listeners group, our Facebook page, Twitter, or our Discord server. The best way to support us is to buy our book, The BarkerCast Interviews, Occupy Midian, available in hardcover on Amazon and ebook on Amazon and Apple Books. Fundraiser 10 is all about Patreon this year. Become a patron to get access to exclusive stuff, pick an episode topic, and maybe even get cool stuff in the mail. You can also buy a t-shirt on our TeePublic store. Go to teepublic.com and search for BarkerCast. Leave a message for us using the SpeakPipe link on our blog. Opening and ending music generously provided by Ray Norrish.
Thanks for listening.